Well, hey there. Thanks for joining us at the Art of Feminine Negotiation. I'm your host, Cindy Watson, and today I'm really excited to be introducing you to Dr. Annie White, and we're going to be talking about negotiating from a centered place. There's going to be loads of gold nuggets here, so make sure you get a pad and pen. And we're thrilled to have you here, Annie, so welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. And for those who may not know her, Dr. Annie White is the author of The Calm Code, Transform Your Mind, Change Your Life, which you can't ask for more than that. And after thousands of patient visits and a decade studying the science of the brain and neuroplasticity, Annie developed a revolutionary sort of step-by-step method that can help really dramatically lower stress and anxiety. And I thought, well, we've definitely got to get her on because, as you all know, I am a big believer that negotiating our mindset is our first and most important negotiation. So Annie, why don't you kickstart us off if you've got any advice for us on what are some ways we can negotiate our mindset to show up more powerfully and get more of what we want in life?
I love that because so many people think the negotiation part is about the give and take between the two people in the conversation.
Yeah.
And you're highlighting here that it starts way before that ever takes place.
Yeah.
And what I like to do is a visualization technique to really set myself up for that negotiation. And I even like to do this, depending how important the negotiation is, even a month before.
Wow. I love this.
Mm-hmm.
I love this. And it's
So
funny. Long ago, I confess, I used to think that some of that, like when I was younger, I thought, oh, this is all very woo-woo. And now, boy, I'm embarrassed at all those lost years because it is a powerful game changer. So take us through it if you don't mind. That would be fabulous, Annie. I'd love that.
And I love that you said the woo-woo part. I want to touch on that just for a second, because what's wild is not only do Oprah use it, all of the famous sports players are using it. Henry Ford used to use it. So it's a substantial little tool to keep in your pocket to help things go your way.
I
And
think
one thing, go ahead, sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I think you're not only the people you've named, I would go so far as to say, no, I think most people who are tremendously successful in life are people who have some type of visualization practice. So sorry, go ahead.
I love that. That's very true. But what I think most people are getting wrong with visualization is we don't really even want the outcome of that negotiation. We want the emotions that we're going to feel as the result of it. So we're going to start there.
I love that. Okay.
And when you're thinking about whatever you want, and this goes for any visualization technique, target the emotions first. So let's say we're negotiating a contract with, like a new client.
Yeah.
How do we want to feel after that negotiation?
Mm.
Well, you want to give and take with me on it. We want to feel maybe successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want to feel proud. And in that proud, we want to feel good about what the other person is getting too.
Yeah.
It's not just about what we're getting out of it.
Yeah.
We're helping to negotiate something for them that's going to either improve their business or their life.
And
And that's
excited, I think, too, like excited
Yes.
about the prospects for them, excited about having somebody that we know we're sort of fired up to be working with.
Yes. So that's where we're going to start with all of these great emotions. Then I want you to take these emotions and imagine a situation where this negotiation is going to take place. Is it going to be over the phone?
Yeah.
Is it going to be in person?
Yeah.
And toss in as many details as you can, and it can really help to write this down.
Yeah.
And just have fun with it. This is an imaginary, and it's not necessarily this is the exact way it's going to go, but toss in as many details as you can about the real situation. What you're wearing, where you are, how you're talking to them, what type of day it is outside. You can even toss in what sounds you're hearing around you, because that really gets your subconscious into the moment of the conversation. Then I want you to imagine the conversation, and this is where those emotions are going to come into play. So as you're thinking about this conversation and the back and forth, make sure that it ignites that excitement, that, pride, all of those feelings that you wanted to feel at the beginning when you targeted those. And you make this up. So you, in a way, you just write down, and even if some people say, Annie, I can't visualize. Okay, fine. Don't visualize. Just write it down. Act like you're writing a play and you're the main character. That's
Yeah.
fine. It doesn't matter. You can think about it, you can intend it, you can write it, you can visualize it if you're good at that. But it doesn't matter if you can't do that.
Yeah.
And as you're doing this conversation, just write it out. And what they say to you, oh, it's great to see you today. I'm so glad you came. Start there and then on and on and on. And it's kind of fun when you do
Yeah.
this with yourself. And you can also plan out how you're going to sort of sell it, not in a negative way, but in a good way by emphasizing all those benefits. And that's where all of that great excitement you were talking about comes into play,
Yeah.
because you really are excited about helping them. You're
Yeah.
really jazzed about how this is going to improve their business or their life.
Yeah.
Okay. And then here is the clinger at the end of that. At the end of that, you're going to do a triple thanks and affirmation. You're going to do 3 of them. Okay. So it goes like this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, that. So for presentations, I always like to do thank you, thank you, thank you that I rock this presentation. Thank you, thank you, thank you that I rock this presentation. And then you can do 2 more. Thank you, thank you, thank you that I'm excited about how this turned out. Thank you, thank you, thank you that I'm so excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you that they love the deal. Whatever you want to say. Then when stress or any anxiety comes up about this negotiation over this next month, you replace that with the triple thanks tool.
Yeah. I love this. So just to recap for our listeners, and also to make sure I've got it, because I love having new visualization exercises. I'm a big believer now. I'm a total convert. So we start with identifying the emotions that we want to feel. So we ground ourselves in that. And then we decide the where, which, by the way, Annie, I love that you say that. One of my models is about the who, what, where, when, why. And most people don't think about where they want to have these conversations. And I think it's so important. So I love that's a part of your visualization. So we tap into the emotions we want to feel. We decide the where, then we add as many details as possible to that, make it really sensory, full 5 sense experience. We actually think about the conversation, the way we want to play it out and have that going through. And we're allowing ourselves to sort of feel those emotions in the visualization. And all of this, I assume, ideally, we want to do sort of with our eyes closed so we're fully in the experience. Would you advocate
You can do
that
it
for
both
people who are
ways.
comfortable?
Sure. If you write it, sometimes writing it down can help.
Okay.
It can help you imagine things,
Okay.
for the first time. But then
Yeah.
you can take that and you can visualize it. You can read it and
Yeah.
then you can visualize it, because you're going to want to practice this
Yeah.
at least once a week before that negotiation
Yeah.
happens. I would
So
say,
beautiful.
yeah, try to go for at least 5 to 10
Yeah.
times.
I love the closed eyes experience because I feel it just so grounds. I embody it more, and when I do that, so I love that. And then once you've done that visualization really fully and allowed yourself to do it with no awkwardness or embarrassment about it, like fully immerse yourself in the experience, and then you do your triple thanks affirmation. Is that's the secret recipe?
You nailed it.
I love it. Okay, I love that. And I know we often hear that if we want our life to change, that we need to change first. So what are some tips you have about some of the most effective ways to start? I think people go, oh, that sounds great, but I'm overwhelmed. Where do I start with that?
I say start with 3 minutes twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can encapsulate this visualization into just a 3-minute sort of thing,
Yeah.
do that twice a day. And sometimes it's easiest to do it right when you wake up in the morning. So
Yeah.
set your alarm just 3 minutes earlier, and then 3 minutes before you go to bed at night.
Yeah.
Or if you take a lunch break, maybe 3 minutes tacked onto a lunch break.
Yeah.
And that will actually it not only starts to make you feel better. And
Yeah.
so you're less stressed about whatever is coming up.
Yeah.
So you feel better in the moment. And then your mind actually, with visualization, this is one of the techniques you can use to actually physically train your mind to be calmer and happier.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that about training your mind, because I think, a lot of people think that they can't change who they are. I hear that over and over again, right? And I'm proof that's not true, right? I used to see certain stuff as woo-woo, and now I'm the biggest advocate of it. So I'd love if you could explain for us a little bit about neuroplasticity and how it works in the brain, because I think the science is finally catching up with what decades ago people considered woo-woo. And it looks like maybe the hippies in the 60s had it right after all. So I'd love if you could give sort of an explanation for the average person to understand about neuroplasticity, how it works, and how we can actually change and train our brains.
I would love to do a little role play with you.
Sure.
And we're going to use an analogy because I think it's easier to explain this way. So you just got a new job.
Okay.
You are working at American Airlines and you're in charge of routing the planes.
Oh,
Okay.
dear.
It's a big job, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you need, in our analogy, you need to make sure that all of the planes all the passengers get to where they need to go on the planes that are taking them there.
Yeah.
So you design the flight paths and their connections.
Got it.
In our analogy,
Yes.
the passengers are your thoughts.
Yeah.
And the flight paths and connection are the neural pathways and the synapses, which are the connections between them.
Cool.
So your boss comes in and
Yeah.
says, I have no idea what's happening right now, Cindy, but everyone is going to Stressville.
Yeah.
Everyone has to get there.
Yeah.
So you have to design more paths and connections to get all these people to Stressville.
Yeah.
Because that's where it's all going.
Okay.
Then a month later, your boss comes in and says, oh, wait, never mind about Stressville. I don't know. They did advertising for Calm Town. Everyone wants to go to Calm Town now. So you would make more passing connections to Calm Town while you would disintegrate disintegrate the passing connection. This is what your brain does. Passing connections to Stressville.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what happens in the brain. And it's wild because every single thought, action, and emotion strengthens or wires your mind along the corresponding pathways in your brain.
Yeah. I love that analogy. Actually, I haven't heard that one before. I think that's a great visual image for it to help sort of get people connected with the idea. And just to sort of really put a pin in that, because I think it's such an important concept. When we talk about sort of changing that neuroplasticity in the brain, like, would that include people flipping the switch? Like when we've got that inner critic and we've spent a whole lifetime telling ourselves that we can't do certain things, that we're not good enough at certain things. Our brain goes looking for evidence. It tries to give us what it thinks we want. So if we can start training ourselves to flip those stories, much like we're rerouting those airplanes to go, will that start then to change those pathways in the brain? So my brain then starts going to look for evidence that, yes, I am capable. Yes, I've got this. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, except sometimes. So when you've had multiple thoughts along the stressed and negative, and stress and negativity are hand in hand, and we can get into that in a second, and negative paths, your mind is dominated by it.
Yeah.
So when you try to think a positive thought, sometimes your mind will battle really hard against that.
Absolutely.
So my suggestion is to rebalance your mind, to train your mind to be more calm and happy than it is stressed and negative. And then your thoughts will more easily go to the positives instead of the negatives. And so when you say that, those affirmations or those things to yourself, you don't automatically come up with the opposite or go toward the negative.
Well, and that's a really important accept. So thank you for bringing that up, because I call that the pushback reflex, right? I mean, because if we patterned ourselves a particular way, we can't magically expect to just say, oh, no, I'm absolutely confident, and expect that to just be accepted. So I love that you talked about calming the nervous system. And I know you do a lot of work and you have some advice and tips on, and I'm hoping you will share them with us about, what are some simple ways that we can start to calm our nervous system on the spot to make way to have those new messages imprint more deeply?
I want to give you two. So let's say you're in people, and we're human. We get in tizzies about maybe saying, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. This isn't going to work. All of those worst case scenarios, which in negotiations, that's really easy to have happen if you're worrying about this negotiation, if you're stressed about it. So in that moment, I want you to forget about the negotiation. I don't want you to think about anything that could trigger any stress or any negativity. I want you to make an album of pictures that make you feel either calm or happy. You can pick any positive emotion. Okay. You can find them on your phone. You can put in Google, you could put pictures that make you happy.
Yeah.
And this sounds complicated, but it's not.
Yeah.
You can crop them. You can save them on your computer or phone and make a photo album.
Okay.
Then for 3 minutes, when you're in this tizzy about whatever it is, bring out that photo album, set your timer, and go through it for 3 minutes.
Hmm.
And that's how you start to train and strengthen these pathways in your mind so
Yeah.
that over time they become stronger and stronger and stronger. And then we don't just default to the negative or the stress anymore.
I love that. I love that. And just before you go to the second one, I want to call you. I'm smiling as you're saying that, even because as you were explaining that, Annie, I'm picturing we did a trip to Antarctica in January. And I immediately envision this picture I have of this seal. It's like this giant, I don't know how much that sucker weighed, but he's got this beatific smile. I mean, I'm sure it's not, but this lying sideways with this absolute crinkly eyes and a little smile. And every time I see that picture, it just makes me smile and calm down. So I love that idea. So thanks.
Can I tell you something? Some of my absolute, I call these happy sparks, these
Yeah.
little photo albums that you make.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite happy sparks are smiling animal pictures. I love them. And you can go online and you can get all of these pictures. And I would
Yeah.
love to see your seal picture because I would adore
Yeah.
it.
I'll make sure
It's
to
like
flip
my
some.
favorite.
We've also got, penguins doing their face plants. You can't help but feel good when it's adorable. So you said you wanted to share two. So what was the second one? I
The
jumped in on
second
you.
one is if you're in a stressful moment, the first thing that can tell you you're starting to get stressed out is your breath. If you can monitor your breathing, and if you feel it becoming, your breath becoming shorter, more shallow, quicker, closer together, you're going into that stress response.
Yeah.
So I want to teach a breathing exercise that you can do
Okay.
in those situations.
Love that.
And this one you don't have to set a timer for. You can just do it until you feel your
Okay.
your body relax,
Yeah.
okay? First step is you put your left hand on your chest and you say to yourself, I'm safe. I'm not in a life-threatening situation right now. And the reason that we say both of those things is I'm safe, your mind can fight against that. But I'm not in a life-threatening situation right now. Your mind cannot fight against that. And I do not advise this if you're in a situation with the bear chasing you.
So
Because
good.
you need your stress response in those situations. Okay. So if you're really in a life-threatening situation, you're not really going to use this.
Okay.
Unless it's like a tornado warning and you're in your basement and you know you're okay. But if you're driving in a tornado warning, don't use this. Just get as fast as you can somewhere. Okay.
You don't want to be Zen. Yeah, got it.
No. We need that stress response. Okay. Second step. You take that left hand, you move it down to your lower belly. As you breathe in, you feel that lower belly extend out toward the opposite wall. As you continue to say, I'm safe. I'm not in a life-threatening situation right now.
Okay.
Okay. Secret weapon number 3. If you do only one step of this breathing process, do this. Take your right index finger, cover your right nostril, breathe in and out only through your left nostril. As you're breathing down deeply, you're saying, I'm safe. I'm not in a life-threatening situation right now. Scientific studies have shown breathing out in and out only through the left nostril activates your calm or parasympathetic nervous system and it calms you down faster.
I have never heard that before. This is brilliant. I love when I learn new stuff. This is so
I
awesome.
do too. I do too.
With
Yeah,
these
and another way
Yeah.
to remember this, it's a little like cheeky sort of fun name for it, is
Yeah.
pick your nose the right way for stress.
Well, I was thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, if we use this clip as the visual, everybody's going to be like, what the heck are they doing there? So
Picking our nose the right way because we're not actually picking our nose, right? And it's the right side.
Yeah, got it. That's good. Good to remember. Now, I know like confidence is obviously so important in negotiations, and a lot of people get nervous and anxious. So I take it with these tips that you've just shared with us also help with that to be able to calm and ground yourself so you can show up with more confidence.
Yes, but I would love to also give a grounding
Love that.
exercise
Sure.
if you want that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So before you go into this meeting or have this meeting or phone conversation, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Start with now at the bottom of your spine on your tailbone is called your root chakra. So we don't have to go chakras, but that's the area of it.
Yep.
I want you to imagine a great big gold ball. Then I want you to put all of those emotions that you wanted to feel after this conversation's over into that gold ball.
Right.
Then you imagine that gold ball turning into a big gold rope that goes all the way down into the center of the earth. And all of those emotions go down that cord into the spot in the earth. It's called your Earth Star chakra, but
Yeah.
it's also just a spot in the middle of the earth that Mother Earth is surrounding with her beautiful hands and support.
Mm.
So if you can imagine that, even just for 2 seconds, and if during the conversation you start to feel off center, you start to feel
Yeah.
off balance, you start to feel like things are getting a little out of your control, you can really quickly just zoom, visualize that,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
actually
that full
felt
cord.
that. Like, as soon as you had started and I allowed myself to do it, I actually felt physical sensations of it all the way through. That was really interesting. So now this can obviously help in our bit. Most people, when they think of negotiation, think about their sort of business negotiations, but I'd love it. I mean, I'm assuming that the impact that this could have on our personal negotiations,
Oh,
with
yeah.
our intimate partners or kids could be even more profound. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree. I use this more with, my husband, and, we negotiate. We're both like very strong people. I think we'd be bored if we weren't,
Yeah.
but that also means there's some negotiations.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
use this, and you know what else I add in, especially with loved ones? I surround them in a whole bubble of love.
Yeah.
And I just see them in a bubble of love, and I imagine them happy.
Yeah.
Even if we're in a contentious point of the
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
I still try to imagine that a little bit, and
Yeah.
it does soften things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd actually say especially when you're at a point of contention, when you least feel the desire to do it is when you most need to be able to take yourself there. I think that's beautiful. And part of that too, like I think, but certainly professionally it helps. But like, I'd mentioned one of my models is that 5W, and I love that you brought where in. Another one that I think people often forget, as a prep technique for any effective negotiator is deciding who you want to be in advance of negotiation. I'd love if you could share some ideas about how your systems can help with that, right? Really grounding yourself in who you want to be when you're showing up.
Yes, and that's not a bad idea to add into that grounding board.
Hmm.
But that's a question you have to ask yourself. In this situation,
Yeah.
who's my best self coming forward here? And what does that look like? What are the emotions that she is going to carry into this conversation? What
Yeah.
does she want to bring to this conversation? Like, do you want to bring love? Do you want to bring understanding? Do you want to bring support? Do you want to bring whatever you want to show up as in this situation, and add all of those great emotions into that grounding cord
Yeah.
so that it can be a touchstone for you.
Yeah. I love that refinement to that, actually, Annie, that idea. Because I always talk about, who do you want to be? Choose 3 adjectives that describe who you want to show up with. And I love your refinement to that about what do you want to bring for the other person, that love, whatever. I think that really makes it even more powerful. I'd love to share with us, how did you discover this system, by the way? And I must say, hats off, you are giving such concrete, practical tips that people can apply to make profound changes in their life. So thank you for that. I think so many people often, you're interviewing, it's like, well, I've got that secret in this program, or I've got that. You are sharing so graciously things that people can actually take away and apply immediately. So thank you for that. And I'd love to hear how you came to the system.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that, because my biggest pet peeve, if I listen to something, or because our time is precious. So I want to get something out of it
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
I can just go take and use. And I'd be so happy that I listened to that. So I'm happy you said
Yeah.
that. I came up with this process because patients were coming into my office, and this was a long time ago, but it came to pass that I understood if I didn't help their high stress and anxiety, they'd never truly be happy or healthy, because so many of our health issues are exacerbated, made worse, or sometimes even caused by stress.
Yes. Gosh, yes.
So if I'm trying to help people heal, I can't do that without this element.
Yeah.
And my training taught me to solve the root cause of problems. Symptoms for me are just guideposts getting me to the real reasons for things.
Yeah.
So, when I started researching the science of the brain, it became really apparent to me that if the theory of neuroplasticity, and it's proven to be true, but I said this to myself then, if
Yeah.
that's proven to be true, that every thought, action, and emotion strengthens or wires the corresponding parts of our mind,
Yeah.
the opposite has to be true,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because everyone says, oh, well, neuroplasticity isn't always positive. Of course it's not. If you're thinking negative thoughts, you're gonna make a negative brain,
Yeah.
right? No, it's absolutely not always positive. I can speak from experience on that
Yeah.
one. I had so many stressed and negative thoughts. I made myself into an
Yeah.
absolute stress mess nightmare. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
But once I figured that out, then I went and I researched all of the scientifically proven ways to wire and strengthen the mind on those calm and happy circuits.
Yeah.
Then what I did is I combined all of those into tools to make them even more powerful, i.e., that triple thanks affirmation statement. Not only is it gratitude, which is scientifically proven to
Yeah.
make your mind 25% happier,
Yeah.
but also affirmations, positivity, best possible self, future visualization. And we're tying all of this into tools that
Yeah.
people can use every day. So
Yeah.
not only does it make you feel better in the moment, it strengthens those part of your mind every time you use it.
I love it. And thanks for that clarification. So, and again, just to really amplify and put a pin in that for our listeners or our viewers out there, because I think that is precisely the point that with that neuroplasticity, if you allow yourself to keep telling disempowering stories about your capabilities or asking yourself questions that are disempowering, like, why does this always happen to me? Your brain is going to go out and get hardwired over and over, like taking the same path on a dirt road with a motorbike. And the beauty is the opposite is also true. So it's about getting really intentional about what thoughts you have and what meaning you attach to your thoughts, right? That's why people have
Yes.
two totally similar experience. I mean, using a perhaps inappropriate but totally dramatic example, it always amazed me, even as a kid, that people who came out of the Holocaust and survived it, you have people who come out of that experience so embittered about life, which would totally understand. And yet, equally, you have people who came out of that experience with such an appreciation for every moment and seeing it as a gift. It's the meaning that they attach to those experiences. So thank you so
A
much.
and B, what you're highlighting is so frigging important is that it is a choice.
Yes.
The people that came out of the Holocaust, Elie Wiesel, who wrote Night,
Yeah.
and other people like that, they decided this is not
Yes.
going to be, they're not going to win.
Yeah.
This is just like if you had an abusive childhood. I get it. That
Absolutely.
is not hard. That is awful. It's not easy. But if
Yeah.
you don't choose to
Yeah.
repair your mind and change your life, then they're keep winning every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I love that quote between, I'm probably going to bastardize it, but between every stimulus and response, there is a pause. And in that pause, you have the power to choose what your reaction is going to be. And I love that. It's true. Just taking that moment every time things happen to us that we don't have control over. But what we do have control over is taking that moment to choose with intention what meaning we're going to attach and how we're going to respond. I think it's such a powerful shift. Now,
Although,
yep, go ahead.
wait 1 second with that, because speaking from experience, when your mind is wired toward stress and negativity,
Mm,
those pauses are not long. So a lot of times when you're wired that way, you don't necessarily have a choice. It's sort of like
yeah,
if a mother is so stressed out and just
yeah,
irritable and not feeling like herself and she just snaps
yeah.
at a child or snap, and I snapped at people too. So I'm not pointing a finger at
Yeah, we're
anyone.
all guilty.
Yeah, but sometimes you need to train your brain to be more calm and more balanced before those pauses
Yeah,
can actually become significant shifters.
yeah. Well, and I love that. And that's where your system, I think, is so valuable. I mean, A, it is simple, it's easy to apply, it makes intuitive sense, it's scientifically sort of backed up. But between that stimulus and response, in that pause, I love that idea as well. Apply some of your strategies, frankly, to be able to ground yourself in that moment and start training yourself to extend that pause by using some of those grounding techniques. I think that's beautiful. Now, I remember a lot, I've been interviewed a lot recently about my books and one of the questions that I got that I thought was a great question was, what's one of the most surprising things that you discovered while researching for your book? So as I was preparing for this interview, I thought I would love to ask that. What's one of the most surprising or shocking things that you discovered while researching for your book?
Well, one of the most surprising things in my research, I want to say recently, just because I think it's applicable. But was that our pandemic? I know we're all so sick of hearing about the pandemic, but it did have effects, and its effects prove neuroplasticity in action. And so these studies are all saying that the pandemic not only exacerbated anxiety and depression, but it caused
Yeah.
anxiety, depression, and even schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Because we were all training our minds, we were stressed. It was a life or death situation. Everything that came into our consciousness was, am I going to die? Is somebody I love going to die? If I go outside, am I going to get a dire illness that's,
Yeah.
killing people? So it's absolutely understandable. And I'm not saying that
Yeah.
people shouldn't have been feeling that way. I thought that research, it surprised me because it
Yeah.
really showed a mirror of this in action.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. And full transparency. I mean, as you were saying that, if you saw my face change, it's because we actually had a schizophrenia diagnosis at the outset of COVID in our family. And it's been quite an interesting learning curve, to say the least, right? Talk about having to negotiate our healthcare system, negotiating differently how I show up in that relationship. It's so, yeah, thank you for sharing that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, thanks. I've really been training myself to see the gifts in it. And when you open yourself to that, there actually are, like, we're developing a different and in some ways more powerful relationship. Once I was able to let go of the fear, let go of my ego, let go of all those things I was too attached to, let go of my own reactivity about it and make it all about him. Which is interesting because I didn't at first, and that's my own model. I call it the no fear model: fear, ego, attachment, reactivity. And it took some really bad interactions before I'm like, my gosh, you're not even practicing what you preach. And when I was able to flip that script and come the next time saying, I apologize, I've been making this all about me. I can only imagine what this experience has been like for you. Tell me about it. What do you need? It was a game changer, right? So thank you for sharing that. What are 3 non-negotiable habits that you're committed to daily or that you would recommend for our listeners?
I train my mind daily. I eat healthy as much as I can. Obviously, no one's perfect. Perfect people are boring. And I have social connections that inspire me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that, actually. So again, simple, practical, easy to apply, and total game changer. And I can't believe how quickly our time is going. I am loving everything you're offering here. And I'd like and sort of blindside you with this, but if you have any insights or tips, as you were talking about some of these calming techniques, I was wondering, what advice or tips do you have for negotiating with bullies or people with more power, like in that moment, right?
In that moment, I want you to go into your heart and I want you to fill it with kindness
Mm,
for you. And the reason that people are bullies is because no one was kind to them when they were growing up.
yeah,
So once you feel that kindness within your heart, extend it to them because they're being a bully because they're in pain.
yeah,
They're being a bully because they don't have the confidence. They don't have the self. They weren't given love. And whether it was in a recent relationship or a growing up relationship, they're hurting. And so they're taking it out on other people or exerting their power over other people or however it makes
yeah,
them feel better. But in that situation, please know and please remind yourself their actions have nothing to do with you.
yeah.
Their actions are about them and how they're falling down right now in their life.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful advice, like really beautiful advice, and powerful on many levels. Because I think when you're able to do what you just said, instead of getting reactive, which invariably things go sideways and it, escalates, when you're able to come from that place of compassion, recognizing that that bullying comes from a place of fear, it allows you to invite the person to show up as the best version of themselves, right? Like, hey, Joe, I often, it's funny when you're saying with your husband about, even when or especially when I'm feeling whatever, especially when somebody is really triggering you, to be able to show up from that place of compassion and say, hey, Joe, I know that treating people with dignity and respect is really important to you, even and especially when they're not showing it in that moment. I want us to get past what's gone sideways here. What can we do? In the vast majority of cases, I mean, unless you're dealing with a, sort of a sociopath, it is amazing how those bullies, when you show them a version of themselves that is gentler, kinder, that better version of themselves, they actually step into it and it triggers reciprocity. So I think that's gorgeous advice. So I often say that preparation plays a key role in effective negotiation. And I know you've given us so many nuggets here. I'd love if you could sort of capture for us as we're winding down, what elements of your system would you suggest people incorporate as part of their negotiation preparation process? And some of it can be recapping what you've already said, but if you were going to go, here's some non-negotiable to-dos that I suggest you incorporate as part of your preparation for your negotiations, what would they be?
It's basically, it is what I said, and I'm going to recap a little bit. So as far in advance as you can to the conversation, to the negotiation, whenever it is, do the visualization, and you start with the emotion, and then you get into the details, and then you really feel it. And ground yourself. And don't just ground yourself once before the conversation. Practice that and practice how that feels. And maybe even have, if this is a really big negotiation for you, have a practice negotiation with someone or a few
Absolutely.
people employing these techniques, but
I
not
love
for that conversation, for the conversation you'll have with that person,
that.
so that you can sort of practice these things before you go into the big ring, you
Yeah.
know?
That is
And when you're in the middle of the conversation, just ground yourself, know you're safe, surround yourself with love, surround them with love, and focus on the benefits that they're going to get out of this negotiation.
Yeah.
Not yours, theirs.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. That's a great recap. And the only thing I'd add that you said that really resonated, and I'd love to see people start making it a part of their routine, is when you're deciding who you want to show up as, incorporate as part of that, get really intentional about who you want to be and also the impact you want to have on the other person, bringing that love and kindness. I think it's a really beautiful recipe. And it's unorthodox. I mean, when people talk about preparation negotiations, they're so worried about the tactics and the strategies. And, we're hearing so much talk out there now about mirroring and matching. And the most effective shift is going to be that preparation on yourself, how you're going to show up. So you've given us some incredible insights. And I'd normally like to end by asking, what is one of the greatest mindset shifts that you've ever had in your life? And it doesn't have to be on this issue at all, Dr. Annie. It can be on anything. One of those moments when it's like, aha, and you show up differently or feel differently.
I was in a hospital and they thought that I had cancer, and I was getting the biopsy part done. And in that moment, I had a thought, and I said, oh, if this is cancer, that's okay, because I could quit my job. That'd be good. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, did you just listen to yourself? Like, you could quit your job, well, maybe because you're getting treatment, mostly because you're not going to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I decided that I wanted to figure out what to do in my life that fed my soul and fed my pocketbook, because I don't think that they have to be separate.
Yeah.
But at the time, what I was doing obviously was not feeding my soul. And so I went on a quest to figure out what would.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Talk about a positive coming from a negative, scary situation. And it's interesting how often it takes something like that for us to
Right.
see the obvious, right? Which is,
Yeah.
this life is limited, regardless of how long or little time we have, let's choose the life we want. So I always say, negotiate your best life, every aspect of it, to be able to live to your best life. This has been just fabulous. Annie, tell people where they can find out more about you.
My website is Dr. Annie, ANNIE White.com. If they can get a free first chapter of the book on there. I have visualizations. I have recorded meditations. And if they do want a copy of the book, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, iBooks, Audible. And if their bookstore doesn't have it, they can ask them to get it for them.
Yeah. And I'll give a plug on that as well. Definitely try and get your book at the bookstore if you can, because I think that helps author. A lot of people don't realize that when you're getting your book at Barnes and Nobles or your independent bookstores that are there, it really helps authors as well. And it helps keep those bookstores alive. So definitely check out the book, and we'll make sure to put that information in the show notes. And again, oh my gosh, Annie, such a heartfelt thank you. I got so many actionable insights from this interview myself. I've been doing this for a long time. Some really interesting, new, fresh perspectives that I think are so beneficial. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. And I love your show. Thank you for helping people every single episode. I love it.
Oh, well, thank you. And we'll definitely have to get you back so we can go either a layer deeper or go off in another direction. You're just a wealth of gold nuggets falling from the ceiling here. So I always love that, to be able to give to our listeners. And for our listeners, I have no doubt you got loads of value from this episode. I often say that, but I got to say, I really invite you to come back and listen to this again and make sure that you jot down these actionable tips. They are so simple and easy to apply, and it will up-level your ability to negotiate your best life. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't done that already, and share with anyone that you think could benefit from this message. And before we sign off, just want to share some ways that we can work together. If you're looking to up-level your negotiation skills, and remember that all of life is a negotiation, I've got everything from online to group to my signature VIP or masterminds to help you better leverage your innate power to get more of what you want and deserve in life. And if that's interesting, check it out at artoffemininenegotiation.com, and make sure to grab a copy of my book as well, The Art of Feminine Negotiation, How to Get What You Want from the Boardroom to the Bedroom. And that is a wrap for this episode. So until next time, go forth and negotiate your best life on your terms so you can stop missing out and start getting more of what you want and deserve from the boardroom to the bedroom. Until next time, take care.